Wow, my kitchen closet.
I think I wore my copy of the
James.
charter out. Is this an extra copy?
What? Yeah, that's extra.
Thank you.
Could you pass me a pen from that bucket?
Oh, it slid under.
Oh, here, I got one. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, cool. Here we go.
I remembered your lesson on do not disturb on my phone. I found it
Oh.
all by myself.
Oh. That's pretty, yeah.
Always learning.
All right. We all know the drill. We'll check ourselves in and around. How are you doing? How's your day? Any accommodations needed?
My day's great. I woke up on the coast today.
Yay!
I know, yeah, we
What a
spent
place.
some time on the coast. It was awesome. And my in-laws are here, which is another great thing because I'm the luckiest girl in the world. So
Right
I don't
on.
need any accommodation.
Nice.
And name for the record?
Oh, Sue Cathcart.
Chris Winchester has no complaints and needs no accommodations. She's in a good mood.
You got a new haircut.
Nice.
Yeah? No?
No.
Well, a while back. Well, maybe since I've seen you.
I like.
Thank you.
Don Kenyon, I am doing great today. I feel like I've been more productive today on my one day off than I normally am on my day off. That feels good and all is well.
Nice.
James Clevenger, every day's a little bit better than the day before,
Oh, good.
as of right now, so
That's
All right.
good news.
progress. No combination.
All right. Matthew McNabb, doing well as well, and no accommodations needed. So meeting is called order. And we will scroll down. Someone was going to check about the.
She was.
Did you get to that?
She forgot about it until today when she realized we had a meeting.
Okay.
And so I called, but I haven't heard back from her.
Okay.
So I will try again.
No worries.
We won't have an answer.
What were you calling that?
When there's a discrepancy between taking an oath to state constitution and
gotcha.
federal constitution.
Right.
Right, we'll have to come back to that another time.
Sorry.
Federal always trumps the state, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you weren't here last meeting. We had a pretty good discussion about it, and I think we mentioned that it would be helpful if James was here.
Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe you can shed some light on it.
Oh, dear.
If things are in conflict between state and federal constitution, the federal always trumps, and the state part would be deemed invalid. For instance, abortion, a lot of states put in their state constitution, abortion's illegal, and they left it in there. Roe v. Wade came about, deemed unconstitutional, but it's still on the books. But then as soon as Roe v. Wade went down last year, those laws automatically kicked back in because they were never removed by the state legislature. Simplified version.
We were using marijuana as the base.
Yeah, cannabis.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, yeah, on federal lands, it can be prohibited. Those in the middle of the national forest, technically, a U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officer could write the ticket, technically, but
Even though you're in the state where it's legal.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because it's
Federal land.
Yeah, and where this came up was when there's a part where we have an oath of when counselors will take an oath to support the constitutions and laws of the United States and Oregon.
Hmm.
But if you take an oath to both of those, it claims.
What if they conflict? What's the question? would we need to delineate an order so that it was?
No, no, you wouldn't, because the courts would do that for you. So a state constitution can provide more rights. It can be stricter than a federal constitution. That's how we legalized gay marriage. It was done, a lot of states did it through their state constitutions. Before the federal court reviewed it and decided that was a fundamental right. I think it, legal throughout the entire United States.
So what about, wasn't there also something we were talking about that had to do with cash versus check or debit for like marijuana?
Right. The because our municipal all of the authorities for our municipal charter derive from the state constitution, not from federal.
Gotcha.
So let's say that the state issues an edict saying you no longer have full freedom of speech. We're going to implement where European style hate speech laws. If you burn a Quran, you're in prison. And the question because our municipal charter derives from state authority, could city councilors direct the city administrator, don't enforce that here? If they're and same could be said for restrictions on freedom of religion, right to bear arms, etc.
You technically could if it's just a law. And there are a lot of sheriffs in Oregon that have said, I don't care what the state legislature said. We're not going to take away guns from anybody. This law that says you got to take away guns from domestic violence. Not suspects, but people that have been convicted of domestic violence, we're just not going to do it. It's too dangerous, or I don't believe in it, whatever. Yeah. Do that.
So
Because that's not, it's not a state constitutional right, although if we argue in that case that is, but that would just be a law. So there's some wiggle room.
So that's when we were looking at the oath. How can we leave as much wiggle room for the council and for the city administrator to respect human rights?
What do you mean when you say wiggle room on the, like?
I said that. Uh,
I'll make it bigger.
Oh, you
what I mean is, if there are state laws that are passed that the city doesn't agree with for some reason, they could choose not to enforce it. Like a speed limit, city council could, technically, they could direct the police department, don't issue any speeding tickets. Because we don't believe in it.
So right now, this oath curtails that.
Does it? Because we're talking about constitutional.
And
Well, it says-
and laws.
It says Constitution and laws of the United States and Oregon.
So there's this blanket fidelity.
Would laws supersede the state just like the Constitution would?
Say that one more time.
It would the United States laws take precedence over Oregon laws, like the Constitution?
United States laws and Oregon Constitution get to battle it out in the courts. United States law does take precedence over Oregon law. That's my understanding.
Yes, in general.
Could you not just add a line that when they disagree, the United States takes precedence?
Well, that's
Or is that what we're wanting them to say that's true?
there are two separate issues.
Okay.
One is looking at which laws have sway. I don't think our city charter should remotely address that. That's yeah, like don't go there, no reason to touch it. The other is a matter of protecting the civil servants for our city, making sure that if they want to say, no, we're not going to restrict our citizens' rights just because an Oregon law has been passed, that they're not, for instance, I mean, if we have, I know you don't want to see the bonds continued, but if we still have the bonds, someone could cite this oath as it's written to pull that bond.
Maybe, but I think they purposely use the word support
Okay.
rather than a stronger word, because saying you support the Constitution, it's not saying you're necessarily going to follow all the laws. I'll give you an example. It is technically a crime for you to share a prescription medication with your husband. That's, depending on what the medication is, it could be a felony, depending on where the schedule is. So if somebody saw you handing a pain pill or whatever to your husband, he had a prescription last year, he ran out, whatever, it could technically be a felony. And then you're right. If the oath was to follow every single law, it's that, look, you broke that law. Of course, you probably need a conviction for it. But let's say you were convicted. Then yeah, but I think that's why it's saying support rather than follow.
Adhere to.
Adhere to.
Were you suggesting that in the case that I did that as a city councilor, I would be violating this?
No, because it's only saying support. It's not saying follow
Oh, okay.
or adhere to or.
Even with support, so in that, I agree, in that instance, if you did that, an oath to support is not being violated. But let's say that you find out, you find out as a counselor that someone in the police department is organizing a prosecution of a political opponent, and they're using that trumped up charge in order to go after the person. If you as a counselor, the way this is written, if you as a counselor say, look, let's get together as a council, let's stop this. This is asinine. This is clearly politically motivated. Stop. Don't enforce this law. Okay. As a council, you all have, I mean, the council has the prerogative to direct the city manager to direct the police department. Don't enforce this. And with support, if the city council took that sort of action, someone could say, you're clearly not supporting this law. You're asking people to undermine it. I want your bond pulled. That's what I mean, we can keep
on a recall.
right.
recall, because counselors aren't bonded, but
Okay,
CA and finance.
Right.
Technically, CA and recorder by charter are the only two with bonds,
okay,
but we actually have, in actuality, we have one on our finance director as well.
Because the city recorder was part of her job description.
When the charter was written,
okay,
updated last.
all right.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think that language with the word support is weak enough that I'd be fine with it and not too worried.
Mhm.
That's my opinion.
I think that the paragraph as written, the top paragraph as written also supports. I think it, it makes it clear that the counselor, the, the higher guidance that you're looking towards are the constitutions of the state in the United States, and that is a guidance, and there are going to be times that there is minutia, or that there is conflict, but we're guided by these two things, and as a case by case basis, these are the guiding principles,
Mhm.
and as an elected official, you're gonna have to choose to make a decision, and if if it causes an uproar, then it's time to bring in the council, it's time to bring in the city attorney, and it's time to go up from there.
Yeah, for the jurisdiction question of which one applies, I would completely concur.
Mhm.
And for the oath section. Yeah, because if someone says, I mean, you as a city manager say, don't enforce this particular provision. This is crazy.
Maybe it is crazy. I mean, but can it?
Yeah, I mean, that can happen. You
Mhm.
can say, I think this is crazy, and I think it's going to be challenged in court. It's going to be found unconstitutional.
Right.
And as soon as it goes to court, the judge is probably going to put a stay on it, pausing it.
Mhm. But we don't want Oak Ridge to be the test case for that, because that litigation can be extremely expensive for the city. So let's not, and that's the context it came up in last time as well, which of when there is a likely test case, as a city administrator, it's great to be able to direct the police department to act in a way that is less likely to make our city the test case for that, so that we don't have resources jammed up in a civil suit needlessly. And if your oath requires you to support Constitution and laws, that's a bond pull for directing the city directing the police not to enforce.
Yeah, but we don't have bonds.
Well, we have recall.
I have a bond.
You have a bond. So that's, I'm looking, is there a way we can templatize, sort of use this as a precedent for, oh, well, look, we're writing oath of office for administrator. Let's copy this language. Let's make sure that our administrator doesn't get a bond pulled from due to an order not to enforce, or that we don't get a recall, that a city council member doesn't get a recall for the same. But we can go on.
I get what you're saying. But I mean, as far as like, someone pulling my bond, anyone can pull my bond.
Mhm.
All they would have to say, because it doesn't have to be true, the allegation isn't
Mhm.
true. They could say I'm a devil worshiper and that I stole $1 million. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be true.
Mhm.
Bond can be pulled until the investigation's done.
Mhm.
And that work. So I think even if we did something like that or whatever, make it harder, there'd be plenty of other ways to. I mean, people do that to judges all the time. Or Judge
Right.
had somebody putting a lien on her house like
Mhm.
100 times.
Hmm.
Just kept doing it, you know.
Yeah. I would just love to see it worded in a way that would facilitate the expeditious closing of that sort of case instead of giving grounds for it.
I mean, I'd be open to something different, but the having the preference in there, I think might offend some people.
Mhm.
Because there are gonna be some people that are like, Oregon's number one. We should choose the Oregon Constitution over the federal Constitution, or vice versa.
Instead of and.
Correct.
So
Okay.
what are you thinking that it needs to look like?
If everyone is comfortable with the support language, you know, I can drop this one. Because the Constitution of the United States has the delineated rights in the Bill of Rights, being able to say, must swear or affirm to faithfully perform the duties of the office and support the Constitution of the United States, and insofar as there is no conflict with said Constitution, the Constitution of Oregon and the laws of the United States and Oregon. I think that language would make the easy dismissal of that sort of case possible, and I think it would help safeguard the counselors.
I would say if something, in my opinion, if we wanted to assign some more homework for people to see if there are any other languages on oaths to the constitutions.
Mhm.
You know, we could take a look at them.
I would point out on that note that the middle column right there is what the league recommends.
Mhm.
And many cities use the league's language. I would think that we would find that in a lot of cities.
Yeah.
There may be some differences out there, but it can take some work to find.
Well,
This is
I might,
the way around the block. That perform the duties of the office. Do the duties of the office include supporting the Constitution? Because if that is part of the duties, then you can leave the whole line out.
it's true.
Uh, where are the duties listed in the rules of procedure? Or are they listed down here? It was a note, or should we put something like this under duties? Is there a duties in the charter? Here,
Powers and duties of officers on page 3.
okay. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong document. I'm sorry. I'm wondering, where is it at?
Actually, in our powers and duties of officers, it doesn't address, it only goes to the mayor.
The mayor, the court judge, yeah, and that was something I pointed out.
And there's
Here too, there's no duties for council.
not in ours. We've already consented to section 2.4 here in ours of all powers of the city shall be vested in the city council. Fullness of all duties and obligation imposed on the city by law. That's the mention of duties outside of this section.
Oh, well.
So, but why is that different than, like, there are specific duties for the mayor or for the judge or for others? Why would the councils be different? Not delineated, in other words.
The
There's really very few duties of the mayor.
Mhm.
I guess there is something powers after two, powers of the city. Above all powers of the Constitution, statutes and common law of the United States and this state.
Okay, if we table this one for right now and you can
Sure.
consult with the,
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that we leave room at some point in this meeting.
yes.
to discuss it.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we can address that now. Does anyone know what the drop dead date is for the city to get the new charter on the ballot?
There isn't one. That's the point.
Well, no, like if we want it on the November ballot, I believe it's August 27th, or at least August 27th is the last day you can file to run on the
Okay.
November ballot. So I
Right,
assume that would be the last day you could have
So-
something on.
everything including up to through the attorney review would need to be done by then in order to get it on the ballot.
Okay. So I don't know about you all, but I would love to see us finish in plenty of time to do that. And I am very willing to meet extra times if that's what it takes to allow us to finish them.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
To get it on the November ballot,
Yeah.
you think we can do that?
I do.
Where do you think we're at right now with, you know, 3/4 of the way, halfway, 80%?
I think we're around 80%. Maybe more.
So should we maybe kind of sketch out a timeline of how we would want to accomplish that between now and
We
August 27th?
Yeah, about how much time do we think the attorney would need to review the charter? Do we give him 3 weeks?
I would say a month. What do you think?
It's gonna depend on his trial schedule. Usually it's lighter in the summer. So as long as you're not, I think you could do it in 2 weeks, as long as he's not going on vacation those 2 weeks. That would be possible.
Mhm.
Do we give him a heads up and say, this is what we're going for? Do you think
Right, can you?
this is gonna work? If we get this to you by this date, do you think you can review it by? August, whatever.
It's possible. So we have to have at least 2 public meetings, I read.
Mhm.
Council review, city attorney review. And then I don't know how the filing process works.
Mhm.
We need signatures.
No, because it's council, the council asked for it.
Okay.
If the citizens had organized it, then yes, we would need the signature.
Yeah. It's possible.
So we're in May.
Mhm.
We'd have to have public meetings probably in June in order to have a final document
June's gonna be
in
a
June, July.
shit show.
It is gonna be a shit show on the level of council. It's gonna be very stressful. Lots of meetings, lots of,
Debates over the public safety fee, debates over the budget, which is not prepared yet.
Mhm.
there's probably gonna be a lot going on meeting wise, in addition to all the normal committee meetings, you know.
And then you're gonna have a city council election where there are 4 open seats.
Right.
On that ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who determines
that's
the
true.
deadline for the ballot?
The county does, and so it's August 27th is the last day a person can register to run.
But it might not be the date that we would have to submit this. We might have some leeway there. You know,
Try to look at,
Yeah, Wayne County elections ballot measure.
But I think that's what you can relay to the council as well. We'll prioritize getting it done.
What if our two public meetings are July 18th and August 1st?
Public
Mm-hmm.
meetings?
Or those are the two city council meetings, right?
No, city council is the first and third Thursday of every month.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to have public meetings before it would be reviewed by council.
Gotcha. And so the public meetings are separate, like that would be like a
Mhm.
town hall meeting where we discuss it. Okay.
Yeah, we'd need to, we would need to have basically everything done and ready, signed, sealed, delivered with our committee and the public before it goes to council, who
Gotcha.
says, yes, this is good enough to send it to the attorney.
Mhm.
And so council's first what in August?
August, the first meeting in August is August 1st.
August 1st.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Mhm.
What's the third
And if it-
Thursday in July? Just
it's
FYI.
July 18th.
18th. So we could have a public meeting on July 11th
Mm-hmm.
and a public meeting on June 27th. And we can have it finished by then. We can have it finished probably by the 20th in order to organize the public meetings.
I think we probably need to think about advertising and getting info out way before the public meeting.
Absolutely.
I think if it's June 27th, then that's enough time. If we start releasing that now, if it's June 27th.
You said public meetings, June 27th and when?
July 11th.
July 11th.
What are those days of the week?
Both
Thursday.
Thursdays.
He picked dates that the
Oh,
charter
that we
review.
normally.
Yeah, we knew those would be safe dates.
Yep.
Good point.
Yeah.
So then it could technically, July 11th. It could technically end up to council by July 18th, which would be ideal. If, and so we also have to determine. Like. What do we want to do if we present it all to the public and there's, one thing or 10 things that they're like, ooh, I would never.
Mhm.
I don't want that. So then. Do we just come back and hash it out again? And then is it possible to still meet these deadlines?
I think so. Yeah, the primary thing with the primary pieces for the public meeting, from my perspective, is carefully architected framing, and I'm fine doing that. So very clear presentation charts, ways to give input. That's not hard. Because the public meeting, we're listening to if there's any major problem that any of the public has. Okay. And we may not be able to please everyone for what that is. So if we have some charts up around the room and we get tremendously negative feedback about one thing or two things, then we can come back and say, all right, maybe we were reaching too much there. Let's strike that out. Or maybe we say, hey, look, all of us really feel strongly about this. We've hashed this out before, even though we got negative feedback at that meeting. I think there's enough public support of people we know who weren't at the meetings let's go ahead and go with, that's why we're a committee.
Mhm.
Um,
We're a committee appointed by the council, so if they had arguments, wouldn't they have to take them to the council rather than to us?
No,
No?
the council actually doesn't have any authority to say whatever we present to the council. They can't really say, well, take that out. Because this is a citizens document.
Okay, well,
This
that's
is-
right.
This committee and the public opinion and then the vote.
So presenting it to the council is just
It's just a
standard.
So council,
formality.
so council won't even do a motion supporting it or anything like that.
Council
I think they
resolution.
should or could.
Mhm.
Well, all I'm trying to say is they can't like say, I object, send this back to the committee until it comes back to something I like.
Right,
But they could make a recommendation via a motion.
Yeah, a recommendation to send it to the attorney or not.
And that doesn't have to be a resolution. it can just be a motion.
Depending on a majority. Let me look into that because there is
Because remember, a resolution might take 2 readings at 2 different meetings if it's not a unanimous vote.
right,
And
there
if they were
is,
recommending not to send it, citizens committee, couldn't they ignore the recommendation?
there is a whole process, so. Doesn't look like I have a printed copy of that. Wait. So we are sending it to the attorney to draft a ballot title. And that gets presented to the elections office before the deadline in August. I don't have any more details than that written, but I know, I think I have them somewhere.
Mhm.
I will make that my job to get an outline written out,
sounds great.
what is required.
I think one of the easiest steps that we could take, if everyone is up for it, to get some additional time, if we need it, to extend the meeting by half an hour.
Like,
Okay.
I can stay till 7:45, but
All right, sounds good.
So,
The,
To clarify what I'm asking for, a written outline required by the county for submitting, like,
yeah, I've
to
done,
the ballot. Do we need a resolution?
my guess is, I've been trying to search on there, but I find it. I can't even find the deadline. It gives me some weird calendar. Might work better on the phone. I mean, on the computer rather than the phone.
Yeah. I have found some government sites like that are hard to navigate on the phone.
But I would assume it would take a certain number of signatures.
nope. That's
Right, because we're, yeah.
Right.
Because it's,
But then that must. Then it's gonna take some kind of council action,
I'm gonna guess resolution.
probably.
A resolution, isn't it true a resolution is effective 30 days after? We don't have to,
Unless it's made an emergency resolution. Which it could be based on the time, I mean, hey, we need to get this on the ballot, so effective now. But it would still require 2 separate votes, two
Unless,
separate meetings unless. it's
unless it was unanimous, and then it would, then it could be read by title only the second time.
Yeah, there's two different issues. One is what's required to get it on the ballot, and the so if the citizens initiate it in order to get it on the ballot, yeah, there's the signatures required. So I'm with you. That probably takes something from the city council as an alternative to the signatures. Yep.
However, it was directed by the council
Mhm.
in a prior meeting, so if that's all we need.
Mhm.
Then we could just submit the minutes from that
Yep.
meeting where it was directed and approved.
Yep.
By the council, so.
Talking about being directed and approved to form this committee and do the work.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the work product hasn't been approved, because we're all crazy and we come up with some crazy chart.
Yep.
This is, we're gonna burn this town down, devils tonight, but 2026.
All right. Ready to ship back?
So we did. I can tell council next week, we're gonna try to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So now we get to cycle back through some of the things that we've skipped, including this one.
Make it a little bigger.
What's that?
You make it a little bigger.
Absolutely.
It says here, all adopted resolutions shall be signed by the mayor and endorsed by the city recorder. The date of enactment shall be included on every adopted resolution.
I think it's still a question though, does it require a resolution?
Right, I know, but it doesn't, what I'm getting at is that it doesn't say in compared to an ordinance, it doesn't say that it's required to not take effect for 30 days. It just says you have to have the date that it's in effect, enactment included on the resolution. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, there's one more paragraph. Non-emergency resolution takes effect on the 30th day after its enactment or on a later day the resolution prescribes. So we would have to have that. If it's required to have one, we would have to have that resolution approved 30 days before we want to submit it to.
Yeah, you could easily make an emergency resolution, as we pointed out last time, the state legislature, every state law is an emergency.
Yeah.
Okay,
That part is not to worry about.
All right.
Plus, it's the two possible meetings that might
Mhm.
hang us up.
if someone objects.
All right. So we've got section 3.2 council. The league's language is the city council consists of a mayor and 6 councilors. Can you see it? Nominated and elected from the city at large, which is how we've traditionally done it as well. The league's footnotes. Most Oregon cities nominate and elect councilors at large. Some nominate and elect councilors by district or ward. A third option is to nominate by district and elect at large. If there are districts, then the district boundaries must be specified. The most efficient way of doing this is by ordinance. For that purpose, this section could read, the council consists of a mayor nominated and elected at large, and 6 councilors nominated and elected by districts with the boundaries fixed by ordinance. District boundaries must be periodically adjusted to meet equal protection requirements. Most charters that provide for election of councilors by district also require as a qualification that each councilor reside in the district the councilor represents and continue to do so for the term of office. So Yes, Don.
If. I know you answered this before, but if nobody ended up on the ballot for that district. Is that where you said then the council would just appoint someone
Council
after
could-
the
Council
election?
could appoint.
So the ballot would just remain empty for that particular seat?
Yep.
Hmm.
That could also happen now if nobody wants to run.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess you're right.
So here is, I'm not yet making this proposal, because as we know, sociocratically, we toss things out, we talk about them, and then I'll try to get everyone's input into making a particular proposal. So this is language I'm tossing out in lieu of the league's language, tossing up for discussion. The council consists of a mayor and 2 councilors nominated and elected from the city at large, as well as 4 councilors nominated and elected by districts with boundaries fixed by ordinance. Each councilor elected by district must reside in the district the councilor represents and continue to do so for his or her term of office. No at-large seat may be occupied by the same individual for more than 2 consecutive terms.
And a
Yes.
term is the 4 years?
Yes. So this language would do 2 things. It would make 4 of the seats occupied by district,
Mhm.
and it would remove term limits for the people who are representing a district. It would keep the term limits for the at-large position.
Why would you want to remove term limits for everyone?
Why would I or wouldn't I?
Why would you? Why would you want to have part of the council be required to follow term limits and not the other part of the council?
You remember your question earlier of, well, what if no one from a district runs?
Uh-huh.
That's the basic reason, is that in some districts, there may be 1 or 2 people, and that's it from the district who are really gung-ho. So to keep a term limit in a city our size fixed for a district would make it more likely that the council would wind up appointing someone for that in lieu of having a representative from the district. So one way of ameliorating that concern would be to say within the district, you don't have to worry about the term limit. A huge reason for the term limits is because an at-large election requires a certain amount of resources to overcome the social capital of a current office holder. And as you make a district smaller, that social capital matters it takes much less to overcome the social capital because you can meet everyone in your district. So you're not having to raise a whole bunch of funds to advertise and launch a citywide election. You're knocking on literally every door in your district because that's easy to do.
However, everyone in the city gets to vote for who they want in your district, right?
No,
Or is only your district voting?
only your district is voting for who they want it from your district. Yeah.
That's common in bigger cities like Chicago, you have aldermen
Mhm.
based on wards, section of the city. I think Eugene,
Yeah, the
Yes.
planning commission is based on wards. Or Eugene City Council
yeah,
is based on wards.
And a term is 4 years.
Yeah, the
Is that correct?
terms are all the same. Yep.
I'm just gonna say this
Yeah.
because I was a huge proponent for term limits and ended up pushing for it to be added to the chart.
Yeah.
So it feels very uncomfortable to me to think about taking it away. I mean, I want to say I would not consent to that.
Mhm.
However, there have been times, like, I've been on the council for the last 5 years and I've thought, oh man, I probably really need to be here for another 10 before I could ever get exactly what, all the
Mhm.
things that I'd like to see happen in the city. However, I have to keep going back in my head to, the first 7 or 8 years that I was in Oak Ridge and we had a council majority
Mhm.
that had been on the council 20 years that were doing the same things over and over and over that weren't
Yeah.
helping the city move forward.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is ridiculous. This needs to stop because they were favored people.
Yep.
They were big churchgoers and they
Yep.
had a whole bunch of people all over town that just kept voting them in, voting them in, voting
That's
them
the social capital of at-large elections. That's why term limits are so important for at-large elections, right there.
for at large, but they wouldn't, so it wouldn't apply. Let's say, I'm in District 4
Mhm.
and, or no, how do I want to put this? Let's say District 4 has no one who wants to run.
Mhm.
So then you have, someone from 3 other districts. And then, 3 at-large people.
Mhm.
You got 3, who's gonna determine who becomes the 4th seat.
Mhm.
And if these people are at large, they could. I mean, how does then it's not up to the district who's choosing to fill that seat. It's up to the at-large people who can be. No, they're the ones with term limits.
Mhm.
So they would pick someone and that person could literally, because they are an at-large person, even though they're in an award seat, they would be able to stay on the council for 50 years if they wanted. I mean, if they got elected every time.
No, because the moment you have someone from that district who is actually wanting to run, they're I mean, only their name, if there's only one person who wants to run from that district, that's the only name on the ballot from that district. They're automatically going to displace whoever the at-large nominee was. Because the at-large nominee was nominated to compensate for the lack of someone from that district filling it.
Okay, so. Yeah, essentially, they're only there for a maximum
Right,
of 2 years.
Yep.
Because they don't get to stay there once someone runs.
right.
Okay,
That's,
well, you're helping me now.
all right. No, because I'm,
I worry about.
Yeah.
20 years of
Yep.
the same,
it
happens.
I would fully support. I'm glad you got term limits on for at-large elections. And there is no desire from me to remove that for the exact reason you're mentioning.
So you're saying if nobody runs in District 1, then somebody's gonna get appointed?
Yeah.
And is that person at large or is
Yeah.
that person District 1?
At large.
That person is occupying an at-large seat for the council in lieu of someone running from District 1. All it takes is someone running from District 1 in the very next election, and that person no longer has a seat.
Okay, I'm just confused that if they're getting appointed to represent District 1, then why are they at large?
They're filling that seat, which
Right,
is District 1's seat,
right.
even though they're not in District 1.
Oh, so they could be from any, that's what at large means.
That, right.
Duh.
But they're occupying District 1's seat,
Gotcha.
which is why when someone from District 1 runs,
They're the only one on the ballot. The at-large person can't run for that district.
Okay, because they're at large.
right,
Gotcha.
And so in that case, it's possible to have 3 at-large counselors and 3 district counselors.
Yes.
Okay.
That's.
Well, they'd have to
De
be
facto,
It'd have to be 4 and 3, because there's always 7.
Yeah.
And it's, the districts would be based on household size, I mean, or population or number of homes.
Geographical is kind of the way we.
yeah, I would love to see it approximately geographical as close as we can make it to that. Because different sections of the city have different histories, different socioeconomic statuses.
What do you mean when you say geographical? Just a square, just directly?
Yeah, so the potential ones I'm for until codified by ordinance. In other words, council can can pass an ordinance changing this changing what the lines are right away. This just gives the public an idea. So it'd be north of railroad tracks and east of Crestview Street.
Crestview?
Yep.
Which one is that?
Crestview is the overpass. By Ray's.
Oh, right.
And do you have it on Commercial Street being
So north of railroad tracks, east of Crestview. So that's all this. That's one. Yeah. 2 is south of railroad tracks and east of Crestview Street. That's actually here. Yeah, all right. So. Yeah, 1, 2 is south of railroad tracks and east of Crestview Street.
Numbers wrong. It's showing
2.
4.
Okay, 3 is south of Highway 58 and west of Crestview Street. Which is what you
So
got.
these are based on the police has the 4 districts for neighborhood watch type.
Yeah. Or north of Highway 58 and west of Crestview Street. Yeah, that's.
So District 2, in my opinion, just from looking at the map, probably has the fewest a number of homes.
Mhm.
Wherever James number 4 and number 3, each of those is way more populated, and then 1 and 2 are the 2 lower populated.
And the lines can certainly be moved. My concern is less the number of people and more the particular interests.
Like, how would you know? I mean, like, what kind of interests are you even referring to?
Well, we know that, I can just tell you bluntly, this is our lowest
Income,
financial
household,
income.
income.
Yeah. This is the high.
Yeah.
So they would be, their concerns would be improving the golf course, their concerns would be.
Improving the parks
That's.
and
Gen.
getting rid of the police department.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry.
But no, but that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so that brings up the question of how, I mean, I understand exactly what it means for electing seats on council,
Mhm.
but what about, well, it'd be only the council that would determine ordinances and laws and all of, okay.
Let's see, I am curious where people live, so you and Kelly Brewer
Mhm.
there. Brian's there.
Yep.
Jan Hooker's there, well, she's not council anymore. Chrissy, Pollitt's here.
And Michelle's up there.
Michelle's up there.
Poncho's there.
Yep, Poncho's in number 1.
Oh, yeah, 'cause he's,
Mhm.
we don't have anybody, do we?
Hmm. Well, I lived on School Street the first time I was a counselor, so.
Mhm.
And Paul Workham lived over there in the zone 3. Can't really think of where other people live. Kathy lives in one. Jim Cooey, I think, lived in one. Kevin Gobelman, does anyone know where he lives?
You saw his address today, but I.
Hmm.
It's interesting, you know, obviously the drawback is. Yeah, you have a bunch of really brilliant, awesome people that all happen to live in the same neighborhood, they couldn't all fit on campus.
Mhm.
And then you might have wards that are totally empty, but of course then it could be filled with one of those awesome people.
That's right.
So you could potentially have an entire at-large council.
Yeah.
For a year, and then the next election, that wouldn't happen because somebody would have to be.
Well, you wouldn't have an entire at-large, but you might have, say, 1 or 2 people who are occupying. So like,
Yeah, one of them would have to
yeah,
be.
one of.
If all 7 lived in here, there'd be one person that was
That was
properly.
One,
yeah.
gotcha.
But yes.
Gotcha.
Say that again. I didn't follow that.
If all 7 counselors lived here. By default, one of them would be living in the proper.
Yep.
District, the other 6.
Would be at large.
But yeah, the at-large, well, the 3 of them would still be occupying appointed district seats.
Right.
So they would be charged with, hey, even though you live here, do your best to represent the constituents there.
Right.
Get to know those people. They can't reelect you. So, not sure,
How much work would they put into that?
right? Not sure how much work you'd put in, but if the people are really happy with you, they may not get behind, they may do a write-in, but the name, you're not going to get someone from the ballot.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like this idea. My only concerns are. Concern number 1 being costs.
Costs. For
I
the
assume the
election?
city would have to pay a little extra money to have the elections office figure out, okay, we're sending.
Hmm.
Type 1 ballot to these people, type 2 ballot, to these people, because the ballots can be different.
Oh,
Ballots are only gonna have. people vote.
right, but they do it for the city of Eugene. This would be a much smaller job.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a
Mhm.
extra cost and. If it's that big of a deal or not, I don't.
So should we have someone do some research on that?
I don't have time. But yeah, that would be a phone call to the Lane County election.
I can do that.
Cool.
Um,
I've got some homework on that.
And I know we talked about this
Mhm.
before, but
Yeah.
you guys know I am a big fan of star voting.
What's star voting?
That's what Eugene is deciding on in this election in
Mhm.
May. So if you have multiple candidates, if you have 5 candidates on the ballot, you can rank them. You say, this person's awesome, 5 stars. This person's awesome too, 5 stars.
Mhm.
This person's okay, 3 stars. This person sucks, 0. This person's 0. Then-
Whoever gets the most stars wins?
Nope, then it goes to a second vote. So the first vote, yeah, however many stars you get. That's what matters, and the top 2 star getters. Then go to a runoff. In the. So it'd be like the primary election here in May, would be the star voting part. So you collect your stars, top 2. Are on the ballot for the general election, then it's just.
And that's for each of their wards, for each
No.
council seat?
It is, star voting is generally used for general elections. But
So mayor.
But they're,
are they doing it by district too?
but I don't. It's for city council, so it's got.
Okay.
Has-
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's on the ballot. Whether or not voters want to use star voting
Mhm.
at the next election.
At the next May election, they would be using the stars to determine who's on the ballot for the November.
And a huge benefit of star voting is the functional elimination of primaries. So you don't have to have a separate primary and main election.
So when would they do the star voting?
The you rank everyone on the ballot, and the computer processes until and just goes down until you get a majority. It's
So everybody's in the same boat, Democrats, Republicans.
Yeah.
Independents, whatever party you're at. Right now, it's a closed primary system, so you can, if you're registered as a, I'll give you an example. If you're registered for as a Democrat right now, in May, there are no Democrats running for state representative. It's just Charlie Conrad, our current state representative, who's Republican, and this Harbrick guy challenging who's Republican. If you're registered as a Democrat, you have no say. Because your ballot won't have that on your ballot. Whoever wins between those two will be the state representative because there's no Democrat running.
It
So,
doesn't go to us, to the general?
oh yeah, on the general election, your
One-
ballot will say whoever won, whatever the person's name is, let's say Charlie Conrad wins. Option 1, Charlie Conrad. Option 2.
No.
No. So whoever's registered as a Republican will be deciding who our state rep is for this area, which also includes Junction City, Coburg.
So if Eugene changes to the star voting,
Then you would have, so let's say, we'll stick with the state rep vote. So you have 2 Republicans and let's say 3 Democrats are running. So rather than having 2 separate primaries, they could all be lumped together, all 5 of them, and everybody gets to
Stars.
vote.
I think it's brilliant.
I think it's awesome too. But,
okay, so, I wanted to play out a scenario with, let's say the scenario we mentioned earlier, that all 7 could end up being on one ward. From one ward.
Mhm.
Is it possible then? Wouldn't it be possible?
Mhm.
That they could all end up there for the next 20 years if no one puts their name on the ballot from one of the other wards? Because 3 at large would get,
No, so
3 at large would be on the election.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's say they're all from number 1 section. So, well, actually, one of them would be the number 1 seat.
right.
Then you'd have 3 at large.
Mhm. You
And
you would have 3 occupying the other district seats having been appointed.
yes,
Right.
technically,
but you still have 2 at large.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, how do we want to play this out?
just putting numbers in.
That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah, if everybody lives here, and so somebody is substituting for this position, but then nobody runs in the next election, and then nobody runs ever.
Mhm.
Technically, I think council would still have to
It
reappoint.
still has
we
to,
would have
council
to
has to
reappoint
reappoint.
somebody,
Yep.
so we could always still keep reappointing the
Same
same
person.
7 people
Just
that
twice
were.
though. Because
Yeah,
it can
I'm
only
with
have
you.
2 terms.
Elected terms, depends on how we word it, because
Oh, yeah.
right now, our term limits, you could,
I hate our term.
yeah,
Got
you can
written.
run for 4 years, run for another 4 years, take 4 years off,
And
and
then
run again, or
Actually, you could take 2 years off.
you take 2 years off and then
You
get,
take-
oh, yes, and then run again.
you
Or
take
you could-
no years off.
No years off and get appointed back.
Wow.
So that was really stupid, the way they threw that in there.
So we can fix that.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's,
You want to let Trudy in?
that's what I'm getting at though with, I mean. We still could potentially end up with. The same 7 people for 20 years. If. Nobody, put their name on a ballot from the other 3 wards.
But
All it would take,
Yeah. isn't the person that lives in District 1 that's representing District 3, isn't that than an at-large appointment. And so wouldn't that be restricted to 2 consecutive terms? Right, because, right, if this is,
Oh,
right, is there,
no at
The
large
wording from
seat.
appointed to elected.
Well,
is the
at large,
hang-up,
maybe
right?
it would need to change from at large seat to at large individual. May occupy the same.
or do we, or something that labels, a person that is appointed to represent a district that they don't live in is considered an at-large seat.
Until someone's elected. Yeah, we maybe have to throw in something like that.
Or we could add, no appointed, nor at-large, or at-large seat may be occupied by the same individual for more than 2 consecutive terms. That would take care of the issue that you're mentioning.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
But there's no reason why somebody elected in District 1 can't serve for 20 years if they keep getting elected.
Correct.
Because the only people that have 2 are at large.
But what Matt is saying is that if someone wanted to affect change in that district, you could literally knock on all those doors.
Right.
But I guess the opposite could be said like, if you're super tight with your neighbors,
Mhm.
I could foresee some counselors, really tight with their small neighborhood, they could get elected for 20 years,
Mhm.
no matter how crazy they get.
They have to have
If
an
all those
Potentially.
people love them, they could.
Yeah, but it's their district.
But-
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and they can pick who they want to run their district.
So interesting. But star voting would not work well with this. Which is fine.
Yeah,
I like all of them.
The star voting could still be used for at-large elections. The
The reason I like star voting is because it gets rid of some of the more extreme candidates.
Are they doing it? I know some people doing the star, if you get more than 50% of the vote. Well, no, that wouldn't amount because you get 2 people coming off that list.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. It has to go to a second round where it's just 2 people.
and some of the math stuff is actually, when you look at the U of O's model elections, some of the more extreme people actually get in with star voting. Because there's less of the gamification. So if I think, gosh, here's this person who really cares about the national forest and cares about Oak Ridge and cares about all these issues that I want to see affected. But this person really is only polling at 15%. People do this all the time. We gamify, like, all right, so I'm just going to vote for this other person. If there are 3 people on a primary ballot, or 3 people on the main ballot, I'll vote for the person I think has an opportunity to win. And in star voting makes it where you don't have to do that. So you can actually have a candidate who runs on, I love the national forest, I love Oak Ridge, and oh, check out this issue that these people care about and this issue that these people care about, and can go around appealing to particular interest groups enough to
Convince them to give 5 stars
Yes.
to you and 0 stars to everyone.
or actually just 5 stars to you, because they don't have to, well, we're getting sidetracked, but they don't have to gauge whether you're likely to win. So star voting will increase the role of interest groups in elections. and decrease the role of parties.
I'm not sure I understand how star voting can't apply to wards or districts.
Well, it could, but it would be,
So the city of Eugene would be voting on
We're just-
whether or not to implement star voting for state level seats.
no, it is, it's
City
for city
council.
council.
Yeah, so a city Eugene size could certainly run star voting for a district.
I'm just saying we're so small
Yeah.
that I doubt there's gonna be 5 candidates in each district.
Mm.
I think there would be a lot of elections, where there's only one person running in a district, just because.
Yep.
So if we were to implement this is, it's not only changing seats, but it's changing term limits, so we would need to be really clear about that in our communications with the public.
Yeah.
No, I think I have one too, yeah.
Right. Until codified by ordinance. This is
Right.
the way it's going to go if we pass the charter.
Mhm.
And then after it's codified, what changes? Anything? Or are you just saying
Just
this is
boundaries.
temporary until?
Yeah, this is temporary until the city council codifies.
Gotcha.
So we would have to codify that by ordinance prior to adopting this charter so that it could be firm. Because changing the charter is a long process.
No, the charter can give a template. And then the moment the charter passes, the city council can say, and here we're codifying it by ordinance. And then the recommended template is obsolete. Because that's literally only functioning until it's codified by ordinance.
And
Oh, I
that's what
see.
this is. For now, this is how we're gonna do it until the city council gets together and decides if they want to do it different.
Okay, so even if they did want to do it differently, like change the lines or whatever,
Yeah.
They could.
that they could, and then that would be delineated by ordinance, and
Mhm.
that
Yep.
section in the charter just doesn't apply to anything
Correct.
anymore. Okay,
So technically, like if we didn't like it.
Mhm.
Council could change the ordinance
Okay.
later.
But yeah, they could change where the district lines are.
Right, so they could say, if they didn't like it, they could say, this is District 1. Oh, nobody lives there. This is District 2, this is District 3, and this is District 4, the whole city, right?
No, because there are state laws that affect apportionment of votes. So they couldn't do that. The way that districts get appointed, the district boundaries, this is the league's note, district boundaries must be periodically adjusted to meet equal protection requirements. Most charters that provide
what does equal protection requirements mean?
That gerrymandering.
Did I have a say in my district?
In other words, population. Approximately.
Yeah, but I mean, like in Chicago, you know, they knew that African Americans lived in this neighborhood. So they said, okay, that's District 1, that's District 2, that's District 3, and you know, there's whites all around, so it diluted.
Yep.
The black vote. Because they just chopped them up, so it's just a section.
Mhm.
Gerrymander. Republicans, Democrats do it all the time.
Mhm.
You know, oh, all the Democrats live down here because it's
Mhm.
poor or
Yep.
minorities or whatever. So they carefully, that's why you have all these weird shaped districts.
Mhm.
Just a big district, but here we go, sliver down here. another one with a sliver up here to dilute.
North Carolina was notorious. The Supreme Court's still dealing with them. They had to redraw twice and they still don't like it. Because you got a pocket here and a pocket way over here. And they keep trying.
All right, so let's do a round and first off, a round of just questions. Any questions about what's being proposed? We're not right now in this round giving. Yes, I think we should do this. No, I don't think we should do this. Here's what I'd like to see changed. We're not doing any of that. We're just any clarifying questions.
I think I'm good.
All right.
Me too.
All right. Clarifying questions?
I think I'm good too.
Okay, Jamie.
I understand what's being proposed. I was going to say, we could bring Sarah Walk in here next meeting.
Sarah who?
Sarah Walk, she's the person that's running the star voting stuff. She didn't invent it, but she's the campaign chair, whatever, I don't know, what do you call it, initiative. She's in charge of the Eugene star voting stuff. She's a great person. She's a tree sitter for a while. Protect an old growth trees. And she would love to come in.
So, are you getting at that we might want to consider adding star voting to?
I'm saying I like the idea of star voting better than districts. So I think,
Oh,
because I think I like star voting better.
do you think it
Yes.
would go over better with the 1,100 or 1,372 voters in?
That is a question okay, so that is my question. Which would be easier for, or not easier, what would our citizens like more? I don't know.
What might be more popular? Maybe, is it even reasonable to consider the option of presenting bold ideas to the public as though it were a, we need you to kind of tell us now which way you want us to go. We're gonna get it in the charter.
Star voting is much more popular among people who have a populist streak. Populist streak. So
Streak.
Care
Care more about people?
care more about what the populace at large thinks wants, and wants to diminish the role of all of meeting gerrymandering. Okay, so
Right.
so that's one. Star voting also tends to be more popular, and this is significant for Oak Ridge, among people who understand ranking systems on computers and have a lot of social media experience, and I like this more than this and less than this. So trying to get star voting passed right now, given the percentage of Oak Ridge voters who don't have internet at home, don't have computers, don't interface with social media, I would be,
What do you think that percentage is?
from the last emergency, I was shocked. It was over 30% of the town that doesn't have regular internet access. Does,
Yeah, cost. It's major cost.
so
Okay, but that doesn't mean that they're not using the internet, because they could be going to the library
Mhm.
or to the, yeah, like I know a guy that doesn't have internet and he goes to Big Mountain Pizza every day.
Mhm.
To do things that he wants to do on the internet.
I think we definitely couldn't do both. I think that'd be too, because you're
agreed.
gonna have some people that are just like, change, no change. And if you give them two things,
Mhm.
both changes.
Yeah.
So then I guess we need to decide which idea sounds like the better option.
Districts, I think that's not that radical.
Hmm.
That's, yeah, done in Eugene, lots of places.
And we could always I mean, part of what we're doing in this charter is lowering the threshold for a citizen initiative from the 15%. So,
What do you mean?
Yeah, could you
or potentially doing, let's see,
lowering?
what was the, initiative? Moment. Here, so I don't make anyone dizzy. So we've talked about it. This is, so that's the, proposing a new ordinance or set of ordinances, revising or replacing the charter, approving or rejecting a recently passed ordinance.
Oh, you mean an initiative
Yes,
from the citizens to overturn it? No, that's a referendum.
it's referendum. So actually, no, it wouldn't lower it for a charter amendment. That would remain at 15% of qualified voters in Oak Ridge if we used that language. This goes back to a discussion we had that the league mentions we can lower these thresholds. They're set at 15% by statute, so that wouldn't apply. But all it would take is 15% of registered voters for something like star voting. And then that gets added to the ballot as a charter amendment.
It would be a charter amendment?
Right, or we can directly put it in the charter.
Right. So it's a question of in part a question of for a city this size, what is being accomplished by each, and then for a city this size, what would be easier to potentially have added to the charter via a citizen initiative. So districts, I don't ever see that being added via a citizen initiative, because there's what districts can do for a city this size is it can facilitate the coordination of neighborhood watch groups, of the households in each district. It makes it much more, provides a lot more impetus for the households to get together, for the households to have meetings because they have someone representing them on council.
Like, I got a problem, but I'm gonna go talk to my friend who lives 2 blocks away.
Right. And that is my interest in the districts is to address to provide an official stamp to say, hey, if you all are organizing your neighborhood watch groups, your emergency preparedness groups, if you organize them by district, then you have already a lot of the infrastructure to then have representation on the city council. So it's a way of catalyzing interest in what goes on in the city, and getting that linked back locally. For a city Eugene's size, the districts are too big to do that. you would have to have a city council that is too big to efficiently function. Or you'd have to federate that so that there's in-between levels. So in order to federate that at a level that's appropriate for the size of the city of Eugene, that's a lot more changes than would be required here. I think that we could sell districts as part of an overall charter revision pretty easily. Go ahead.
Maybe, but I think there are some city councilors that won't support it because they're
Mhm.
thinking in the back of their minds, Coker and Hollitt are gonna think, oh shoot, now I have to run directly against.
Oh, one of them can run for at
Brand-
large, one of them can run for.
It could,
Mhm.
maybe. I think districts would be real popular here, to everyone living here, and here, because I've heard a lot like, oh, all the city does is spend money on the uptown. That's all they care about is the uptown. So folks down here, and here, would say, all right, that means we're gonna get somebody, yeah, and they're gonna figure it out, they're gonna like, hey, you're right, there are no counselors from here, there are no counselors from here.
However, I just thought of something that I wanted to ask about is the amount of potential work that would be put onto a counselor that is not just for running. I mean, everybody has to work to try and get votes all over the city.
Mhm.
But as a counselor, then moving forward, if you do get elected into a thing, staying in touch with, communicating with your little district, like what kinds of things is gonna matter.
Right,
And that's gonna put more work on. Like I could tell you right now, I couldn't add that into
Mhm.
the 7 committees that I'm on.
Yep.
And that would be another thing, is that I wonder if committees could be divided up amongst.
Well, we could do that right now by resolution.
but I mean,
No, but I just wanted to throw that
Yeah.
out there, that I could see that being a potential for making it less interesting to become a counselor.
Mm.
For the extra work on top of everything that we're already doing.
less and or more. I mean, I can say that as someone who lives over in what's number 4 here, if I thought that being on council would mean that I'm talking with the people in my neighborhood more and listening to their concerns and helping to organize neighborhood meetings, that would be a tremendous impetus for me to run for council versus serving on committee for the whole town. So I think you would have some of both. And that may determine in part whether someone wants to run for an at-large position.
By the way, you should run for council.
In all honesty, if the districts pass, that does make it much more likely for me to want to run as a district rep in the subsequent election, because that representing a district where I can actually talk with the people is, yeah, that's interesting to me.
Versus talking to.
Versus talking to the whole town, because I can't do that. I can talk to the whole town, I can't listen to the whole town.
Right,
Uh,
good point.
So no questions, all right, comments round. Comments on proceeding ahead with adding this language, balancing that with getting a rep from Star Voting in to talk about that option. What do you think? You're first.
I think I would want to have a similar conversation around star voting.
Mhm.
You know, I think because we've spent so much time talking about districting and kind of that makes it an easier thing to visualize.
Yeah.
And I think and I'd like to have, you know, maybe not the same length, but also a conversation about star voting.
Yeah.
What that would look like
Mhm.
for a city this size,
Mhm.
you know, and in my, yeah, I guess, you know, my initial reaction after this conversation is, you know, is districting the right thing to do for a city this size?
Mhm.
Would star voting be the right thing or status quo? You know, but I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about star voting
Yeah.
or leaving it as it is.
We could have Sarah come in. She is the expert.
Mhm.
And that will be right after the election and we'll see what Eugene did. If they voted for it.
Their election is coming up
May 21st, May
and we meet when?
24th, we meet May 23rd.
You want to, if you want to extend an invite, then I'm game with that.
Yeah.
How are you sitting?
It's about money and education.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Star, you're gonna get the people who have the money to put themselves out there, and they could be popularity more than real desire to help. However, living on River Road in that section, I know that most people don't give a shit. They're trying to get through a day. And it would become, it's nice, I want them to have representation. A lot of them don't care. So that's a sword to
Mhm.
more than two sides.
Mm-hmm.
I love the district because it does give representation to voices, but if those voices don't want it, but I also don't want it to be a population or a popularity contest where money speaks really loudly. Because I don't think if it was Star, you're not going to get anybody in that neighborhood to run to be on that list. So I don't know, it's just looking out for everybody, but then everybody doesn't want it. So I'm torn.
I don't know if this is speaking out of turn, but if star voting is a system that that gives a large voice to, you know, the educated and interested, it may be a system that doesn't necessarily represent the people that it's trying to represent. But
Right, but I'd like the city run by educated people.
right, yeah,
It's that part too.
But people, I mean, people, like, a lot of times you'll buy raffle tickets, you buy 10 raffle tickets, and you have the 3 buckets,
Mhm.
the 3 prizes. You can put all 10 in one bucket, or you can try to spread it out. People are used to that idea. I don't. Rockets, I mean, it's called star voting, but it's not rocket.
Well, I'm like, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. Like, they're not necessarily different though,
Mhm.
but, well, they are, but I don't know. Like on the point that you just brought up about, maybe the people in District 2 don't care, or 3, whatever that number is. What I would think to say to that is, it is entirely likely that 3/4 of that district doesn't care. Or more. But they could have 10 that are like, we care, and they'll go to the meetings and so they know who their neighbors are and what might help in their community because they see it. Not necessarily because they know the people, but they see the environment they're living in.
Right.
And okay, these people do need their potholes fixed because they can't afford to replace the axles and the tires when blah, blah, blah. You know, and so there could be a small number of people that really speak out and represent their area. I liked what you were saying about wanting to know more about star voting in order to decide like what's the best fit for Oak Ridge, really. But I also was nervous when I heard somebody say something about like the popularity thing with star voting, like, so to be clear, just so I know what I'm talking about, star voting would be in lieu of the districts. You wouldn't have star voting in each district.
Technically, you could, but I think that would
You
be way
could,
too
but
much.
we're way too small for that probably, so it'd be one or the other. So star voting would lead to the very big possibility that, you know, the popular person.
No, I think the opposite.
You
But I'm
do?
wondering if we could assign Matt the research of finding a good neutral website about star voting,
Mhm.
email it to everyone, so
I can do that.
we can all read up about it
Oh, okay.
before
Mhm.
Sarah comes to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I've advocated for star voting at the statewide level, so, yeah.
So
What
you already
was the
got
last time,
website.
when I lived in Eugene, it came up.
Mhm.
But I don't
it
remember
was
if it
ranked
made it to the
choice.
ballot.
It was ranked choice, which
different?
yes,
Yeah, so ranked choice, if there's 5 candidates, okay, you're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3, you're 4, you're number 5.
mhm,
And so you might like all of them and think they're all good people, but you gotta rank somebody last
Mhm.
and somebody first.
and ranked choice voting views some elections really interestingly, to the point that I wasn't supporting.
Yeah, because you could have, I mean, you could have someone who's in the KKK. And they have their secret little buddies, and so you just tell all your KKK members, put this person number 1. And you can get enough votes from a small group, if there's a lot of people running.
Mhm.
You know, somebody could win with 11% of the vote because everyone else has 9 and 10%.
Oh,
And then bring this group.
Yep.
Get in there.
hmm.
Versus star voting, they wouldn't, because everyone's like, well, that guy's KKK, 0 stars.
Right.
So yeah, those few KKK people will give them 5 stars. Everyone else is going to give them 0. So they won't get enough stars to make it.
Yep.
Hmm.
But I think it's worth researching.
Mhm.
Matt can send us a website.
No problem.
Sarah can come in, but that way we already have some basic knowledge, so we're not starting from scratch,
Yeah.
and that part could be short. Additional stuff.
Okay.
Plus, we'll see what the vote is in Eugene.
Mhm.
Not that we want to base anything we do about Eugene, but it really is.
Mhm.
I'm very curious to see.
It'll help us understand what kind of
Right.
percentages might be interested in something like that.
Mhm. And if I were in Eugene, I would support star voting because you'd have to federate this. Here,
You would support it over districts?
heck yeah.
Because this allows third-party candidates to get in. This takes power from the Democratic and Republican Party.
Council is a nonpartisan, so how does that matter?
Well, so it's a district attorney race, but if you get an endorsement from the Democratic Party of Lane County is overwhelmingly Democratic. So then they put out in the newsletters, vote for this person, even though it's in a nonpartisan race. So the parties will have less
Yep.
power, because
For me, the districts are appealing when they can be made through federation. So if you have this sort of size, which is possible to meet everyone in that district, possible to talk on a regular basis. If you have that in Eugene, you have literally sections that are smaller than most of the neighborhood federations in Eugene. And you would have to get, in order to have the sort of community listening that motivates my wanting districts, in order to have that in Eugene, you'd have to federate the sub-neighborhood associations so that representatives from each of those pockets then form a sub-city council. And that group makes decisions, and then those sends a rep up to city council. So you have to have a mid-level.
If we'd ever have that many people interested in.
We won't hear. And that idea, while it has passed in some big areas and been very successful, getting that implemented in Eugene, I think it's not happening anytime soon. So what's best? Is it best to stay with the current setting in Eugene, or is it best to implement STAR? Well, from my perspective, it's best to implement STAR voting. I think personally that Oak Ridge has an opportunity to do something that Eugene doesn't. But I'm very open to sending it and hearing. All right.
This is really exciting stuff.
Yes. So we have, I think we're basically at time. No reason to start something new right now.
So Donna's gonna look up the deadlines.
I'm gonna look up what's necessary. And the deadline,
And the
what's necessary to have done, so that we can put it on a timeline. And I can email that out, however, it wouldn't be until sometime next week, because I'm leaving for the weekend. Starting tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I may even have, I feel like I already have a document that tells me all the answers to this on my drive.
Probably when we started the
Hello, what is Sarah's last name?
WOLK.
And H on Sarah or not?
Her name in the paper today. I can't remember.
Yeah, she's been on NPR and shit, no age.
Okay.
Or chaos. Yeah. Like something.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Matt.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you for always running
Yeah.
very smooth meetings and having the vast amount of knowledge to help
I
us
try.